There is a quiet street in Japan where the morning begins long before the city wakes. The air is cool, the sidewalks are spotless, and an elderly woman slowly opens the wooden door of her small home. Before making tea, before checking her phone, before speaking a single word, she performs a tiny ritual that takes less than 30 seconds. It is so ordinary that most people would never notice it. Yet this simple habit has been shaping her days, and perhaps even her life, for decades. Now imagine if the biggest improvements in your life did not come from dramatic changes or expensive self-help programs. What if they came from actions so small that they seemed almost invisible? Tiny habits that require almost no effort, yet quietly transform your health, your happiness, your relationships, and even the way you see the world. Japan has fascinated people for generations. It is home to some of the longest living people on Earth, cities known for remarkable cleanliness, and communities where respect and mindfulness are woven into everyday life. While technology and tradition often stand side by side, the real secret of Japan is not hidden inside temples or laboratories. It lives in ordinary mornings, everyday routines, and countless small decisions repeated day after day. Perhaps that is why visitors often leave Japan with a strange feeling. They cannot always explain what makes the country different, but they sense that life moves with a quieter rhythm. There is less rushing, less chaos, and more intention. The difference is rarely found in grand achievements. It is hidden inside the smallest moments. Because sometimes, changing your life does not begin with a giant leap. Sometimes, it begins with something almost too small to notice. Modern life often tells us that success requires doing more, buying more, and moving faster. We chase bigger goals, longer to-do lists, and endless productivity. Yet many people feel more exhausted than ever before. Stress has become normal, distractions are constant, and genuine peace seems increasingly difficult to find. Japan offers a different perspective. Instead of searching for one magical solution, Japanese culture has long valued the power of steady, consistent habits. These are not complicated techniques reserved for monks or philosophers. They are practical actions that anyone can practice, regardless of where they live. Some of these habits have existed for centuries. Others have quietly evolved with modern society. Together, they create a lifestyle built on mindfulness, respect, simplicity, and continuous improvement. Scientists have repeatedly found that our daily habits shape our lives far more than our occasional decisions. Tiny behaviors repeated every day gradually rewire the brain, influence emotional well-being, and determine long-term health. In many ways, our future is simply the result of what we repeatedly do when nobody is watching. As we journey through these 8 remarkable Japanese habits, you may discover that none of them are difficult. The difficult part is realizing how powerful something so small can truly become. And the first habit begins before most people even realize their day has started. The Japanese often speak about beginning with intention rather than urgency. Instead of rushing into the day the moment they wake up, many people take a brief pause to become aware of the present moment. It might be opening a window to let in fresh air, quietly stretching, arranging the bedding, or simply appreciating the silence before daily responsibilities begin. This tiny pause changes more than mood. Psychologists describe something called the intentional start effect. When people consciously begin their day instead of reacting immediately to stress, their brains are better prepared for focus, emotional control, and thoughtful decision-making. Rather than allowing notifications, worries, or unfinished tasks to dictate the morning, they reclaim ownership of the first few minutes. In Japanese culture, mornings are often treated as a fresh beginning rather than a continuation of yesterday's problems. There is beauty in starting slowly, even if only for a single minute. Imagine 2 people waking up. One immediately grabs their phone, scrolling through news, emails, and social media before even leaving bed. Within moments, their mind becomes crowded with comparison, anxiety, and information overload. The other opens a window, breathes deeply, notices the morning light, and quietly prepares for the day ahead. The difference may seem insignificant. Yet after hundreds of mornings, these tiny choices create entirely different lives. But mornings are only the beginning. The next Japanese habit transforms something we usually ignore: the way we remove our shoes. To many visitors, taking off shoes before entering a Japanese home seems like simple etiquette. But behind this tradition lies a much deeper philosophy. The entrance of a home, known as the Genkan, represents a symbolic boundary between the outside world and the private sanctuary within. Dirt is not the only thing left behind at the door. Stress, noise, frustration, and the pressures of daily life are mentally left outside as well. Removing shoes becomes a silent transition. Without saying a word, people remind themselves that home is a place of peace. Modern psychology supports this idea. Our brains naturally associate physical actions with emotional states. Rituals, even tiny ones, help us switch from work mode to relaxation mode. This reduces stress and improves emotional recovery after demanding days. Many Japanese families instinctively understand this principle. They may never describe it using scientific language, yet the effect remains powerful. Imagine arriving home after a difficult day. Instead of carrying the chaos indoors, you pause for just a few seconds. You remove your shoes carefully. You straighten them neatly. You take one slow breath before stepping inside. Nothing dramatic has happened, and yet your mind has already begun changing. Sometimes the smallest physical action creates the biggest emotional shift. But there is another habit that quietly influences nearly every aspect of Japanese life. Habits 4 to 6. There is an old Japanese word that has no perfect translation in English. It is spoken softly by grandparents before throwing something away, whispered by parents teaching their children, and quietly understood by millions without needing long explanations. The word is Mottainai. It expresses a gentle feeling of regret over wasting something that still has value. But Mottainai is far more than a lesson about recycling. It is a way of seeing the world. Imagine holding a simple wooden spoon. To many people, it is just another kitchen utensil. But through the lens of Mottainai, that spoon represents the tree that grew for decades, the craftsman who carved it, the hands that transported it, and the countless moments that brought it into your home. Suddenly, ordinary objects no longer feel ordinary. They deserve care. This mindset quietly changes how people live. Instead of constantly replacing possessions, many Japanese families learn to repair, maintain, and appreciate what they already own. Clothing is stitched instead of discarded. Household items are cleaned carefully. Food is respected, and leftovers are used creatively whenever possible. Interestingly, psychologists have discovered something similar. People who regularly practice gratitude experience lower levels of stress, stronger emotional resilience, and greater life satisfaction. Gratitude shifts attention away from what is missing and toward what already exists. Mottainai is gratitude in action. It reminds us that happiness rarely comes from owning more. More often, it comes from seeing more deeply. In today's world of endless advertisements and constant upgrades, this tiny habit feels almost revolutionary. Instead of asking, "What else do I need?" it quietly asks, "Have I truly appreciated what I already have?" And once you begin asking that question, something remarkable happens. Your life starts feeling fuller, not because you gained something new, but because you finally noticed what had always been there. But gratitude alone cannot create a peaceful life. The next Japanese habit teaches something equally powerful: how to create calm by removing what no longer belongs. Walk into many traditional Japanese homes, and one thing becomes immediately noticeable. There is space. Not empty space that feels cold or lifeless, but intentional space that allows every object to breathe. Every item has a purpose. Every corner feels balanced. Nothing competes for attention. This idea is deeply connected to the Japanese appreciation of the meaningful space between things. In Western thinking, empty space is often viewed as something waiting to be filled. In Japan, empty space is valued because it creates clarity. The same principle applies to the human mind. Our schedules become crowded. Our phones overflow with notifications. Our closets become packed with clothes we rarely wear. Our thoughts race from one obligation to another. Without realizing it, we begin carrying invisible clutter everywhere we go. Neuroscientists have found that excessive visual clutter increases mental fatigue and reduces the brain's ability to concentrate. Every unnecessary object quietly competes for our attention, even when we think we are ignoring it. That is why decluttering often feels surprisingly emotional. People believe they are cleaning a room. In reality, they are also clearing mental space. Many Japanese people practice small acts of tidying every day rather than waiting for one overwhelming cleaning session. They return objects to their proper place immediately. They wipe a countertop after using it. They organize as they go. These tiny actions require only seconds, but they prevent hours of stress later. Life itself begins to feel lighter, because peace is not only created by adding beautiful things. Sometimes, peace is created by gently letting unnecessary things go. Yet there is another Japanese habit that doesn't involve objects at all. It involves something far more valuable: your attention. Have you ever noticed how rarely we do only one thing at a time? We eat while scrolling. We listen without truly hearing. We walk while thinking about tomorrow. Modern life celebrates multitasking, yet research consistently shows that our brains are not designed to focus on multiple demanding tasks simultaneously. Instead, we rapidly switch attention back and forth, becoming mentally exhausted without realizing why. Japanese culture often encourages the opposite: the quiet practice of giving complete attention to the present activity. When drinking tea, simply drink tea. When speaking with someone, truly listen. When preparing food, prepare it with care. This way of living transforms ordinary moments into meaningful experiences. Traditional tea ceremonies beautifully demonstrate this philosophy. Every movement is deliberate. Every gesture carries intention. There is no rush because the purpose is not merely to finish the task. The purpose is to fully experience it. Psychologists call this mindfulness. Numerous studies suggest that mindfulness can reduce anxiety, improve emotional regulation, enhance memory, and even strengthen the immune system over time. Yet mindfulness does not require sitting silently for hours. It can begin with washing dishes, folding laundry, writing one thoughtful sentence, or taking one slow breath before answering a difficult question. These moments appear insignificant, but together they reshape how we experience life. Instead of racing endlessly toward the future, we begin discovering that life has quietly been happening all along, in the present moment. And perhaps that is Japan's greatest lesson: not to live faster, but to notice more. Still, there are two final habits that reveal an even deeper secret. One teaches us how to care for relationships. The other explains why true happiness has surprisingly little to do with comfort. As the sun sets over a quiet Japanese neighborhood, the streets grow peaceful once again. A family removes their shoes before entering home. A shopkeeper carefully sweeps the sidewalk outside his store. An elderly couple shares tea without speaking much, comfortable in the silence they have built together over decades. Nothing extraordinary seems to be happening. And yet, perhaps that is exactly the point. The most meaningful parts of life are often so ordinary that we overlook them. We wait for the perfect opportunity to become happier, healthier, or more fulfilled, while ignoring the tiny moments already placed in front of us. Maybe lasting change does not begin with a dramatic decision. Maybe it begins tomorrow morning, with one slow breath before reaching for your phone. Maybe it begins by returning one object to its place, by thanking one person a little more sincerely, by improving one small thing instead of trying to change everything. Because a meaningful life is rarely built in a single moment. It is built in thousands of quiet moments that almost nobody notices, until one day, you look back and realize those tiny habits have gently transformed the person you have become. The smallest habit you choose today may become the greatest story your future self will ever tell.